Welcome in, everybody, to episode 13 of my Pro Unreal Engine developer series here on YouTube. Today, we're going to be creating our walk blend spaces for the character. So that'll be a lower body and an upper body. And that will involve us importing an animation pack. Don't worry, it's free. And we'll also be making a few animations in Blender, but don't worry about that. We already did all the hard work with the placement frame, and now we are just barely rotating the animation to make it look like we're moving. So yeah, it should be a pretty good episode, and let's get right into it as always, starting off with our Jira board. And you'll notice I got rid of all the other tasks and epics. I didn't want it to be confusing anymore, so now I'm going to be making the task each time with you guys. So make a task called create walk blend spaces and fill in this description. And we're just going to call this done when we have our two blend spaces. We're not going to be implementing them into the character until next time, because that's more of an involved process, and that's going to be a 40-minute lecture on its own, so don't want to combine these two. It'll be plenty for us to do today, don't you worry about it. Alright, so now we're going to go down to the details, and you want to put this assigned to you under the art label. And then you also want to throw it under that player character epic. And we should be all set here, so just pause and copy it down. And now we're going to actually close out the get started epic, because I keep forgetting to do that. So go back to the backlog, and we can drag this in. And yeah, here we go. Now I remember I need to close this out, because we still have it as to do. And come to think of it, I need to mark the player character into in progress. I'll do that next time. Or one of these times here, I might forget, who knows. But we'll throw that into in progress and open up P4V. And we'll make our new pending change list. And you'll notice that I'm going to mark this as HSS. And that's because I was getting a little confused because I basically have two versions of this task. And I think it's good practice to say the game you're working on, because we are going to be working on multiple games in this series. So moving forward, just copy what I did there, and you should be fine. Alright, so now that we're all set in Jira, we're going to open up an Excel sheet where I have documentation set up for our animation. And yeah, just make an Excel sheet called that. And if you don't have Excel, then just make a Google sheet. And don't worry about it not being hosted here, it's no big deal. I just like to use Excel. It tends to have more features. But yeah, so just copy this down. So basically, this is where I put all the numbers that I'm working with in the animation file, because you want to remember what you did. This becomes very important when you're making a shooting game, because you need different animations for each gun. So you basically have to do the same thing over and over again, and you want everything to look consistent. So if you see here, I basically have the deltas in location and rotation, and how many frames per step we're going to be going. So basically, all these animations are loops. So for idle, we're going to go x.01, z.01, rotation delta x 1, rotation delta z 1, and that is going to be 160 frames from our initial placement frame. And then we go back to the placement frame, and that's how the loop works. So we're just going to make those real quick right now. And the first step to do that is going to be to go into pose mode. And by the way, if there are any animators watching, I apologize, but I'm an engineer, so I'm doing my best here. So yeah, click on that wrist and go into pose mode. And then press the duplicate button, and then the little shield. And the little shield basically means the animation is going to be secured, so it's harder to delete. And we can call the animation standing idle. And as we see, we need to go 160 frames from where we are now. So after we select both of the wrists, so click one of them and then shift click the other one to do that. We're going to go to frame 161. And then from there, we're going to start moving these. So you press GX and then 0.01 and then enter. And now we're going to press GZ 0.01 and then enter. And now RX1 enter. RZ1 enter. And that should be it. So now we'll press we'll right click, sorry, and then insert keyframe, location, and rotation. And you'll probably get the same error I just got because we forgot to check out the blend file. So we have to go into Perforce and check them out. So click on the file, add them to our change list, and press the little checkout button. And now they should be savable. And while we're at it, we'll add the animation calculations as well. And now we should be able to save. And thankfully, that appears to have worked. And now we're going to click on those first keyframes and press duplicate. And we're going to drag them to frame 321. Because that's 160 frames from 161. And at the bottom there, we want to set our start frame to 1 and our end to 320. And now we're going to be able to see what this animation loop looks like. So you can drag there, or you click on that and press the space bar and it'll play it. So see, with just doing that, we have a pretty decent looking idle animation. And I'll admit, it's not like AAA quality by any means, but it's good enough for our purposes, and I think I'm happy with this. So now we're going to start the process of exporting this, and I'm going to make a mistake here, so don't do what I'm doing. Okay, so that's fine in theory, what I'm doing right now, but unfortunately, that little start and end value that we can set isn't respected by the plugin we're using. And remember, make the folder the export from Blender that we used. But anyways, it will export keyframe to keyframe. So in other words, it's going to export one too many frames. And I think I realize that now, yeah. So we need to go to 320 and go back into pose mode and click both of our wrists again. So click, shift click, right click, location, rotation, and then we're going to delete our keyframe that we have at 321. So you just press the summary one and it'll delete all the keyframes. So now we're going to get what we were seeing in the preview window. So it's going to go from frame 1 to frame 320. And that's what we want to see. So that's good. And we can see it's still there. So that's good. And now we'll move on to making the walk animations. So see, I told you guys, this is pretty straightforward, and we're just going to do the exact same thing over and over again. Filling out the chart is a bit of trial and error, but thankfully I've already gone through that pain, so you guys won't have to as well. So now we want to go to frame 31, GX.02, GZ.02, RX2, and RZ2. And this one will have a bit more movement as we insert the keyframe. But yeah, this one will be a bit faster. Well, actually substantially faster and have a little bit more movement. So as we can see, it looks more like we're walking as opposed to idle. And especially when you see the difference, you'll be able to really tell. Yeah, so see how much slower the idle is as opposed to our little walk forward here. So I think we're looking pretty good with that. And we need to do the same thing where we insert a keyframe at 60 and then delete the one at the end at 61. And now we want to go back to the placement frame and duplicate it again. And we want walk left. And by the way, we want all of our animations to originate from the placement frame. So that's very important. Make sure you're doing that. And so now we have GX.04, GZ.02, RX2, and RZ4. Yeah, and I believe I screwed this up here, so I'm going to have to start over. And to start over, you just drag the keyframe. Well, no, I actually did it right. Yeah, so see, that looks like we're moving to the left compared to forward. You have to pick a direction to go in for the forward one. And unfortunately, I picked left. Well, I guess not unfortunately. So you have to make sure that it looks more left than the forward one, or else it won't make any sense. So that looks pretty good. And again, the same process will make a keyframe at 60, delete, and now we're all set. And now let's export those. So you just have to press OK once you export the first one. It's actually very convenient. And then we go to walk forward, export, OK. And we got that one too. And now we just have walk right. And we'll go back to our sheet. And we see this is the one we have to use negative values. Very exciting, I know. So GX negative. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. And if that happens, you just right click and you'll be fine. So GX negative 0.04. GZ 0.02. RX2. RZ negative 4. And then we'll insert our keyframe. We'll duplicate the first one, bring it to 61, and we'll test this out and see how now we're moving to the right pretty obviously. So we'll do the same thing, put a keyframe at 60. Okay, looking good. And we don't need a backward animation because it would pretty much just be the exact same thing as the forward. So I think that's fine, and we can get away with that. Okay, so we export that one, and now we have all of them. So now we can actually get into the engine as we close down Blender. And we can close down our calculation sheet as well. We're not going to need that anymore. So we can open up Hide, Seek, Survive. And now we can make our blend space. We also need to import the other animations, but I believe I'm going to make the blend space first. So go to our content, characters, animation, human, upper body, raw. And then you can just drag those animations in if we navigate to them. Okay, so we'll just drag those 4 in. And we have to make sure we pick the right skeleton. So UE4, import all, and they're all in. And make sure you save. And now we're going to actually import the other ones. So open up the Epic Games launcher. And go to the marketplace. And if you get that pop-up, just say no. And you want to search for the Enim starter pack. And I believe it's 3 separate words. Yeah. And don't be nervous if you don't see it. Just press the free filter and you should see it. Okay, so we click into it and then you'll have to purchase it, but it's free. So just follow that process like we did last time. And then when you're done, we're going to add this to our project. Because this has some pretty good walking and crouching animations. That'll be fine for us. So we have to press the show all projects. And at this point, we just want to pick the engine version that's the closest to what we're using. So we'll pick 5.2. It kind of looks like the 5.3 is there, but it got cut off. But as I try to rearrange my window to see the 5.3, I don't think it's actually an option. So we'll add 5.2. But for something like this, it doesn't really what engine version you're using because it's just animations. If you were using a code plugin, then yes, it would matter a lot, but just animations, it typically doesn't matter. And unfortunately, we have another copy of the UE4 skeleton now, and that means we have to retarget all the animations from this skeleton to our one that we're using. Because the asset maker has to have a version of the UE4 skeleton in their asset pack to bind the animations to. So we'll make a folder in here, a little bit of indecision about where to put it, but we want to put all our retargeting assets in the same place. So we'll make a lower body folder, and then in top level animations, we'll make a retargeting folder. And now we need to go into the characters and see we already have the IK rig for the UE4 mannequin. So we just need to duplicate it and drag it into that retargeting folder. Okay, and we'll rename it UE4 Anim Starter Pack. And here's where I start having some issues with source control. And if this happens, don't try to fix it like I do here. Yeah, see, I just screwed everything up pretty badly. If you ever see any weirdness with source control, just close down the project. Because trying to fix it, you'll probably just do more harm than good. So we'll reopen it. And yeah, I'm not sure what was happening with Perforce here. I think my computer was on for a long time. So that was probably the issue. I forgot to shut it down the night before. So we'll duplicate it again and do the same process. Hopefully you won't have to do this and yours will have just worked the first time. Yeah, and see the same error. It's probably because I called it the same thing. And this time I just close it down. So at least I'm learning. And we can actually look in the content and see what's actually in there. So yeah, it's in there. So it did get added, so that's a good sign. If it wasn't added at all, then we're having some major issues, but it's there, so we'll be okay. And now we'll try changing the name to something else. Nope, I just do the exact same thing again, and it worked. Alright, so now we open this up, and this is the retargeting rig. And I won't get into how to set this up, but all we need to do is swap in the SK mannequin in the Anim starter pack. Because the rig will be exactly identical because the skeletons are identical. So now we have our rig. So we need to make what's called a retargeter. So we go to animation and retargeting, IK retargeter. And this system is relatively new, and just be very happy that it's here because it makes this process that used to be quite a pain much easier. So you can call it RTG Anim Starter Pack to UE4 Manny. We just want to know what it's doing. And our source is going to be the Anim Starter Pack. and we don't need to change that. And the target is going to be our UE4 mannequin that we are going to be using. And we can drag that target mesh offset so we can see both of the previews. And then we drag up our asset browser and we can search for walk and see there are a whole bunch of animations. And we search for idle, and we want idle rifle iron sights is what we want here. And we press export, and I realize I forgot to make the raw folder. So I'm going to go do that now. So lower body. And we'll just follow the same convention. This is different than how I organized creators, which is why I seem so confused here. Because that game has different weapons, and this we don't have to worry about that, so. Alright, so we have our folder, and now we can export that animation. So you just click on it, export selected animations. We pick where we want it to go. So right in that lower body raw folder that we made. And see, there it is. And now we search for walk. And we just take these 4 animations, the backward, forward, left, and right iron sights, and export. And it should go right back there in the same folder. And export. And now they're all there. So now that we've done that, we can make the blend spaces. Because we're going to need one for the lower body and the upper body, as I mentioned earlier. Alright, so lower body, right click, animation, blend space. And we need to pick our skeleton again, so the UE4 skeleton. BS underscore walk. Okay, so we open this up, and we need to press use grid, and then horizontal axis. We want this to be the direction, and this will go from 175 to negative 175. And the reason for that is when you're walking backward, the direction really goes in between 180 and negative 180 just over and over again, and it causes some issues. So making it 175 just makes things a lot easier. And as you can see, I'm trying to figure out how many grid divisions we need for direction. And the answer ends up being 70. We want to be able to move things 5 from each other. And the vertical axis is speed. And we can set the max to 25, grid divisions to 1. And now we're just going to drag our idle animation in here. So the idle rifle iron sights, put one at 175, one at negative 135, negative 90, negative 45, 0, and then back up the other way. And the reason we're putting these on the 45s is some better asset packs that aren't free will have forward left, forward right, backward left, backward right animations. This one, we don't have that level of granularity, but I just wanted to show you guys what it would look like. And it doesn't hurt anything, so I just keep it like this. And then this top one, we just want to go backward, left, forward, right, and backward again. And if you hold control and drag, you can see the preview. And this blend space is basically just blending the animations together based on what our speed and direction is. That's the function of the blend space. So we're all set with that one, and we can close it down. And we want to rename this by pressing F2 because we want to specify that it's lower so we don't get it confused with the upper body one. And we can just duplicate it for the upper body. So BS upper. And get rid of the little one at the end as well. And we can just drag that into upper body. And see, I'm having some server control issues again. Yeah, so it is all screwed up. I'm not sure what happened. But if this happens, just close down P4V. And hopefully it'll fix itself. And after this, I'm certainly going to reboot my computer. I do see the little update icon in the bottom right. It's a Windows update, so it shouldn't make a difference, but who knows? I just think my computer's a little tired. And we'll open Hide, Seek, Survive back up, and hopefully it'll let us move it this time. So we'll move upper body into the upper body folder. And hopefully it works. Seems like it did, so that's good. And now we just need to swap out these animations for the upper body versions. So we have standing idle, and just literally drag it in on top of the existing one, and it'll work fine. But once this is done, this tends to be a little finicky. So we're going to have to go back and make sure the animations actually swapped. Because a lot of the time they don't. So see, I'm going to hover over everyone and make sure they actually changed. Okay, so we're looking good there. So now we need to swap up the ones where we actually are moving. So forward and backward is walk forward. Then walk left and walk right. And see, it doesn't look right because that didn't actually swap. See, I told you that happens. Okay, that one's fine. That one still didn't swap. There we go. Forward and the left didn't swap, so we'll do that again. And it's happy now, and forward is there too. Alright, so we're looking good. We can use the preview to take a look. And I think I'm pretty happy with how this looks. It's hard to tell with the upper body ones when we're not seeing it from the first person camera. But we'll make do. And now we can package this up. So delete the old build. Package project as usual. And the output log, we'll fast forward until mine is done. Close it down. And now we can test the build. And you won't see any difference at all in the build because all we did was add the blood space. But still good to check. Okay, so we drag that into review. And I'm getting a little confused here so you can see what my video file setup looks like. Little look behind the curtain. And now we're going to go into Perforce and we're going to make sure we add everything to our change list. And this all looks fine. So we'll move it into the change list. Okay, that all looks good. And we're just going to make sure that everything got added. Because we added a lot of stuff, so always good to double check. Yeah, so we want to go to the non-engine content, because that's the stuff that probably got missed. Okay, our calculations got added, but yeah, see, we're missing all the base animation files. So we want to add those. And now we should be all set. So we'll submit that and send it on its way. Alright, and we throw that into done, and we can call it a day. We just have to add our little comment saying that we're all done, and the change list number. Alright, sweet. And now that we're all done with this, next time we're going to actually hook up these blend spaces to what's called an animation blueprint. And then you'll see our guy walking around the map while being animated. So that'll be pretty cool. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here and want to keep up with the series. I recently made the switch from 2 videos per week to 3, and that means you are going to see this game come a long way very quickly. And for those of you who are following along, I hope that you're learning a lot from this. I know how miserable it can be to look through YouTube tutorials to learn Unreal, because that's how I did it myself. And I'm hoping that this series is adding a lot of value for you guys. But with all that being said, thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.